Welcome to my first video in quite some time. So in this video, I'm going to cover the topic of C++ WinRT or CPP WinRT. So recently at the Microsoft Build Conference, they announced that CPP WinRT was going to be released in the latest version of Visual Studio 2017. Now what CPP WinRT is it's a standard modern C++ projection, or language projection, for the Windows Runtime APIs. So before you had to use what's called C++ CX or C++ extension language, which was not ideal. Basically, you would have to learn basically a new language almost in terms of all the new keywords and the new pointer types. So being able to use standard C++ is definitely a benefit. And that's why now I'm actually going to be looking into UWP in the Windows Runtime and exploring some of the APIs and seeing what you can do with it. So to start, I want to show you a basic client server setup that I've made using UWP. So what I've created is a client, a UWP app, client app, that will send its mouse position to a server, and the server will just echo it out to the console. But the UWP client is entirely written in standard C++ using CPP WinRT, and it uses the Windows Runtime Sockets API to do so. So let's look at the mouse client first. So as you can see here, this is a totally standard C++. Everything's just good old C++. Nothing, no crazy extension language. Now, one thing to note before we get into this is if you want to begin using CPP WinRT, not only do you need to download the latest Visual Studio 2017, but you should also acquire this extension called C++ WinRT. Installing this will give you access to, when you do new project, you'll get 4 new project types, templates: blank app, core app, Windows Runtime component, and under Windows Desktop you'll get Windows Console application. What we have here, my client app here, is a core app. Now a core app gives you a core window with no XAML controls or anything like that. It's basically if you want to make something like a game using DirectX and you don't want any XAML, you just use a core app. So once you click core app and you create a new project, you'll get something like this. It has some sample code in there. I've removed all the sample code so that I just had a window. And from there I've implemented some basic functions: connect async, given a local port, and what that does is it takes a datagram socket I have here, a UDP socket, and it just connects to the local port, so the local port I specify. And so then on mouse move, as I mentioned, this is a little simple mouse client where it echoes the mouse move to the server. I have a send response function, and what this does is it builds the response string. It accesses a output string for the server, so given the server's IP and port that we want to connect to, it will get an output stream to send to that location. Then I create a data writer. I wrap the output stream, and then which is a utility. Data writer is a utility for writing various common data types such as int, bool, float, etc. string. I write the request, or the XY position, and then I commit the data to the output stream using the store async on the writer. This actually pushes it to the server. So that's our little mouse client. Now before I show you the server, I have to explain why I implemented it the way I did. So UWP, because they're containerized sandboxed applications, they have security requirements, and with networking, the networking security dictates that a UWP app cannot connect to another application on localhost, so it cannot connect to anyone but itself on localhost. So that eliminates the ability to run a server on localhost and then run your client and connect to it to be able to talk to each other. So to do this, what I've done is I've created I have a Linux machine next to me. So I have a dedicated Linux machine, and so what I've done is I've used Visual Studio's Linux tools to be able to connect to my Linux machine and develop a small, simple server using ASIO, which is the Boost Asynchronous I/O library, which is the basis for the new networking standard. This server is very simple. It just takes a connection, listens for an incoming UDP connection. Once it gets one or receives a packet, it just prints out the contents. In our case, it would be the mouse position, and it just continues to do that. So I will show you it running. First, we'll run the Linux server. So here it is. Here's a console window. It's running. And so now what we'll do is we'll run our Windows client, our UWP client. And as you can see over here on the right, our mouse position is being sent to the server and it's printing it out. So anywhere I move on this client, it will print that position out. So pretty cool. So that's really it. That's all I have for this video. I wanted to showcase C++, standard C++ with UWP, which I've been waiting quite a long time for, and developing a Linux server in Visual Studio using the remote development tools, and how you can use that as a way to develop UWP networked apps with a server backend. Yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope to expand expand my channel with more videos covering these types of topics. Maybe show a more in-depth example of networked UWP app using sort of like a game to try and flesh out more advanced networking concepts for games using APIs such as Google Flat Buffers and the like. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.